Was I wrong for completely cutting off my adopted father, refusing to speak to him or accept his desperate apologies years later, even when he claimed he regretted his cruel decision? Seriously, I need to know if you would have shown any mercy to the man who looked me in the eye on my 18th birthday, the day I legally became an adult, and sneered, "You're not my real son," before throwing me out of the only home I had ever known. It's a story about a brutal betrayal, the cold shock of suddenly facing homelessness, and the unbelievable, life-altering twist of fate that happened literally minutes later when the car stopped me. That car didn't just stop me from walking. It stopped the trajectory of a life headed straight for disaster and revealed a truth about my identity that turned my entire world, and my adoptive family's world, completely upside down. The cruelty of his words and the shocking revelation that followed made me realize I owed him nothing. Not then, and certainly not years later. Tell me if you would have done the same thing, because the immediate, life-altering fallout that ensued felt like the only justified response to his calculated, despicable betrayal. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the world where I thought I was simply their son. My name is Elias. I am now 35, but this story begins on the freezing cold night of my 18th birthday. I grew up in a well-off family in a quiet, affluent suburb. My father, Richard, was a successful, highly respected attorney. My mother, Eleanor, was a philanthropist. They adopted me when I was just 2 years old. I never knew I was adopted until I was about 15, and when I did, they handled it beautifully, telling me they chose me and loved me unconditionally. Or so I thought. Richard was always a strict man, demanding and focused on academic excellence, but I respected him. He instilled a rigid sense of duty in me, pushing me toward a career in finance, even though I secretly loved art and literature. I always felt a subtle emotional distance from Richard, a coolness that wasn't there with Eleanor, but I dismissed it as his lawyer personality. I was his protégé, the future of his legacy, or at least that's what I was told until the clock struck midnight. My 18th birthday fell on a cold, miserable Friday in January. We had a small, formal dinner. Richard gave a very dry toast, praising my academic scores, but never once mentioning love or affection. After dinner, Eleanor went upstairs, and Richard asked me to join him in his study, a dark, wood-paneled room that always felt more like a courtroom than a home office. I walked in, expecting a large check for college, or perhaps the keys to the used car he'd promised me. Instead, he locked the heavy door, sat down behind his imposing mahogany desk, and stared at me with an expression of complete, icy indifference. He didn't wish me happy birthday. He simply reached into a drawer, pulled out a thick envelope stuffed with cash, and slid it across the desk toward me. "Happy birthday, Elias," he said, his voice flat. "This is $5,000. It is your sole inheritance from us. You have exactly 1 hour to pack whatever you can fit into your backpack. You are leaving the house tonight, and you are never to return." I didn't understand. I thought it was a terrible, cruel joke. "What are you talking about, Dad?" I stammered, my heart starting to race. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowed, and that's when he delivered the blow that cracked my entire reality. "Don't call me Dad." He snarled. "You're not my real son, you never were. You are merely a liability that Eleanor insisted on carrying. Today, you are legally an adult. You are no longer our problem, and you are no longer our dependent. My biological son, when he comes back into my life, will inherit everything. You get $5,000 and the clothes on your back. Now leave." Asterisk asterisk, he waved a dismissive hand, turning back to his paperwork. The sheer shock was physical. The cold reality of his words asterisk, not my real son asterisk, asterisk liability asterisk, asterisk, his biological son asterisk, stripped away every memory, every promise, every shred of security I'd ever known. He had planned this, meticulously and coldly, waiting for the exact moment the law allowed him to legally discard me without consequence. I stumbled out of the study, adrenaline overriding the shock. I found Elinor crying hysterically in the hallway, clutching a note. She ran to me, hugging me tightly, begging me not to go. She admitted Richard had been planning this for years, ever since he had secretly reconnected with his long-lost biological son, who was just slightly older than me. She had tried to fight him, but Richard, the lawyer, had drawn up airtight documents and threatened to financially ruin her and strip her of her foundation funding if she interfered. He wanted a clean slate for his true heir. Elinor thrust a crumpled piece of paper into my hand, an envelope with a phone number whispering, "Call this. Don't let him win, Elias, please." But Richard's voice boomed from the study, "1 hour, Elias, or I'm calling the police for trespassing." The raw fear in Elinor's eyes stopped me from asking more. I snatched a backpack, shoved in the cash, my birth certificate, and a few essential items, and ran out the front door into the icy night, the sound of Richard locking the deadbolt behind me ringing in my ears. I was 18 years old, homeless and worthless, armed with $5,000 and a secret phone number. I walked aimlessly through the quiet, snow-dusted streets of the wealthy neighborhood where I no longer belonged. The emotional pain was a dull roar, but the immediate, crushing fear of asterisk, where do I go asterisk, was paralyzing. I kept walking for what felt like miles, clutching the backpack, the cold seeping through my thin jacket. I was focused only on putting distance between myself and that house, tears freezing on my cheeks. I reached a main, 4-lane thoroughfare, the wind biting and the traffic sparse but fast. I was walking across the asphalt median when it happened. I was so lost in the immediate, devastating reality of my abandonment that I didn't hear the large, black car until it was right upon me. The headlights blinded me. I froze, expecting the impact, certain that my terrible, short life was about to end right there on the median. The car didn't hit me. It asterisk screeched to a halt asterisk just inches from my knees. The driver's side window rolled down instantly, and a man, mid-50s, impeccably dressed, with a startled but stern expression shouted, "Are you crazy? Get off the road. You almost walked right under my tires. What in God's name are you doing out here, kid?" He was clearly furious, but there was an unexpected note of concern in his voice. I just stood there, shaking, tears streaming, unable to speak, pointing vaguely back toward Richard's neighborhood. The man sighed, his expression softening slightly. He realized I wasn't just some drunk teenager. I was deeply distressed. "Get in the car," he commanded, opening the passenger door. "Now. I'm taking you to a diner or a police station. You're freezing." Against every lesson Richard had drilled into me about strangers, I got in. I needed warmth, and I needed an adult to tell me what to do. The heat blasting from the vents felt heavenly. I finally managed to croak out, I just turned 18. My father kicked me out." The man didn't scoff. He looked thoughtful. "Your father?" he asked quietly. "Richard Sterling, the lawyer." I nodded, stunned that he knew Richard. The man's face went white. He pulled the car over immediately into an empty parking lot, turned off the engine, and took a long, shaky breath. He looked at me again, his eyes wide with a strange mix of shock and recognition. Asterisk, "Kid, Asterisk asterisk, he said, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. Asterisk asterisk, I need you to tell me your full name and date of birth. Now. Asterisk asterisk, I told him, Elias Sterling, January 15th. He closed his eyes, leaning his head back on the headrest, a look of profound, agonizing regret washing over his face. He reached for a small satchel on the back seat, pulled out a thick leather wallet, and inside, tucked away behind several credit cards, was a faded, tiny, infant photograph. It was a picture of a baby. So that's the terrifying precipice I stood on, betrayed, abandoned, and now sitting in a stranger's car on a dark road, watching him react with shock to my name and pull out an infant photo. Before I tell you the unbelievable, life-changing truth this man revealed, the truth that turned Richard's cruel betrayal into the most expensive mistake of his life, I want you to pause and comment below what you think the connection is. Is he a family friend, a rival lawyer, or is this somehow related to the adoption? The man straightened up, the shock on his face solidifying into a fierce determination. My name is asterisk asterisk Ethan Vance asterisk asterisk, he announced, his voice now firm. I am an attorney, and I am not a stranger, Elias. I am your asterisk asterisk biological father asterisk asterisk. The world tilted. I stared at him, unable to process the words. He explained the truth, which unfolded like a Greek tragedy right there in the car. Ethan and Eleanor had been college sweethearts. They had a brief, passionate affair when Eleanor was engaged to Richard, and she became pregnant with me. Richard, obsessed with a perfect, controlled life, refused to let a scandal ruin his legal career. He forced Eleanor to conceal the pregnancy, coerced Ethan, who was young, broke, and easily manipulated into signing documents relinquishing all parental rights under duress and a promise of a future financial payoff, and then Richard adopted me immediately after I was born, making the papers airtight. He created the perfect illusion. Ethan never stopped trying to find me, spending his life trying to become successful enough to hire the best lawyers to undo the adoption. The picture in his wall, it was the only photo he had of me. The secret phone number Eleanor had shoved in my hand was not just asterisk phone number. It was Ethan's private office line, which she had kept hidden for years. The coincidence was shattering. Ethan was on his way home from a late-night strategy meeting. He was now a highly successful, specialized corporate lawyer who had spent 2 decades building a massive fortune specifically to fight Richard Sterling. He had been planning his final, massive lawsuit against Richard, hoping to break the adoption, when he nearly hit me on the road leading directly from Richard's house. Fate had literally put me on my biological father's hood. Ethan looked at the cash Richard had given me, shook his head in disgust, and calmly told me, Richard didn't just kick out his adopted son, Elias. He kicked out the biological son of his biggest legal rival, a man who now has the means and the motive to destroy him. Your cruel abandonment tonight just gave me the final, necessary evidence. Asterisk malicious abandonment and psychological cruelty, asterisk to a dependent child. Ethan took me immediately to a high-end, discreet hotel, bought me clothes, and ensured I was safe. The next morning, he didn't waste a second. The gloves were off. Richard Sterling had spent 2 decades creating a perfect legal shield, but he had committed the cardinal legal sin. Asterisk he created a paper trail of malice, asterisk. Ethan filed a devastating emergency petition for custody, detailing Richard's cruel, premeditated expulsion. Backed up by Eleanor's testimony, she finally found the courage to speak up, and the date-stamped fact that Richard removed me hours after his biological son showed up, having found him through his own connections. The consequences for Richard were total and swift. The legal battle that followed wasn't just about custody, it was about public reputation and asset distribution. Ethan's team expertly used Richard's cold-hearted expulsion of me on my 18th birthday as irrefutable proof of his decades of emotional cruelty and manipulative intent, not just toward me, but toward Eleanor as well. Richard's reputation, built on integrity, crumbled instantly. He was investigated by the Bar Association. He lost significant clients due to the scandal. The money he had promised his biological son vanished as he fought tooth and nail to save his professional life. Crucially, the court forced a massive settlement in Eleanor's favor, and I was formally recognized as Ethan Vance's son. Ethan never looked back. He didn't just give me a home, he gave me a true family, genuine love, and, eventually, the freedom to pursue the art career I had always wanted. Richard Sterling was professionally ruined. He lost his firm, lost Eleanor, and was forced into early, disgraced retirement. His biological son, the one he had planned to replace me with, cut contact when the expected inheritance evaporated. Richard tried repeatedly over the years to reach out, to apologize, to reconnect. He claimed desperation and momentary insanity. I never responded. I sent him one final, handwritten letter years ago. You showed me your true nature on the night you thought I was worthless. I am not your son. I am Ethan Vance's son, and you deserve every consequence you earned. The car stopping me on that freezing median was not an accident. It was divine intervention that led me straight to the only man who truly saw me. So, tell me, was I wrong to use the law and my new father's resources to completely destroy the life and reputation of the man who cruelly discarded me? Or was the destruction of Richard's life the only fitting consequence for his calculated betrayal on my 18th birthday? Let me know your final, honest thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you believe in the power of karma and coincidence. Subscribe to the channel for more shocking, true stories of identity and revenge, and share your final thoughts on this whole unbelievable mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.